What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be covering some awesome tips that I learned during my Cyberpunk adventures so far. So a few of these you guys might know, but hopefully there are some things in here that you might not have known or you maybe forgot about. So number one, we're going to start things off with save often. So this game does have a decent autosave feature, but there are going to be times where you die and you're going to lose a big chunk of progress, or you might find yourself having to redo a few quest steps. So it's very easy to manually save by pressing escape and just creating a brand new one. So be sure to do that. This also helps when you make decisions. You can see how a story kind of pans out, and if you don't like it, you can reload your last save and try again. Now, Cyberpunk, this is a game that features tons and tons of decisions. There are lots of forks in the road, so being able to go back and make changes is something that a lot of people might want to do. So number two, find a playstyle you like to use, right? Cyberpunk is full of different ways to kill things. You can be a boxer with like gorilla arms and beat things to death. You can slice and dice with mantis blades. You can pick up a katana and go the way of the samurai. You can shift into a net runner and use cyber attacks to like disable and eliminate enemies subtly. However you choose to play, make that decision early and stick with it. If you don't like it, then, like we just talked about, go reload that save, go in a different direction, spend those points elsewhere. Now, if you finish the game or have enough cash and you want to start fresh, you can visit a Ripper Dock and pick up a legendary consumable that lets you wipe out all of your points for 100,000 credits. Now, this is a steep price, obviously, but it is nice to be able to have an option to reset after you finish your campaign, or if you've completely just like nuked your build and it's just awful, then there is a big reset button, which is nice. Number three, make sure to eat your food and drinks, right? These give some nice buffs. And this is something that I completely forgot about. All the consumable items you find throughout the game. You have food that gives you a nourishment buff that increases your maximum health and also gives you regen outside of combat. You have drinks that give you hydration, which increases your max stamina and boosts your stamina regen by a decent chunk. Then you have other ones that are just a flat boost for a certain amount of time, like increasing your carrying capacity or your RAM units. All of these things are available, and these are extremely handy when you're facing tough enemies and you need like a little bit of an edge, right? Or let's say you're a melee user and you keep running out of stamina, right? You keep just kind of running dry when you're trying to find your enemies and kill them. Make sure to stay hydrated. You can keep that bar full, you can get some more strikes in, and you have to spend less time letting your stamina regen. So number four, kind of like number three, one thing we forgot about was our cyberware and the fact that I was looting a ton from enemies. So visiting a Ripper Dock often is a great habit to get into, because after you finish the tutorial, you're going to start seeing a lot more implants dropping and you might not even realize it, right? There's so much loot in this game. You kill an enemy, you just run up to their body, you spam the F key, pick up everything off of them, and depending on how you kind of built your character, you might not even go back and check what you looted. You might just continue moving and throw that stuff in the inventory, look at it later, right? And then you completely forget about it. So that is something that you need to make sure you go and check out. So once you're at the Ripper Docks, the interface that they have chosen isn't exactly like outspoken on what implants you have versus the ones that are available for purchase, right? It mixes everything together. Now there are filters where you can see both the things that you own and the things that the vendor owns. So, but those are kind of downplayed. They don't do a great job of saying, hey, here's a filtering system. So make sure to use that if you would like, or just look for that blue owned label across your items. So then you can easily kind of swap those out and you'll avoid accidentally buying things. And also make sure to pick the implants that are strong for your build, right? Just because the rarity is higher doesn't always mean that's a better piece. You might find a legendary that is completely garbage for your build compared to a green or a blue. So don't always slot based on rarity. That's just like a basic RPG thing, but some folks that are new to the genre might not understand that. Number five, do not sleep on crafting. Crafting is a great way to fill the gaps for your build or replace those weak items that you've been rocking since the beginning. The process is simple. You disassemble gear in your inventory, you get yourself some materials, use those materials to make new items you can use. Very simple. However, you can also use those items to upgrade your existing gear. So if you have a weapon or a piece of armor that really fits your style, or you just like that kind of like badass gun you're using, it just really kind of vibes with you, then make sure to upgrade that thing, right? Or craft a new one. If it's iconic and you have the blueprint for it, make a new one that has a higher DPS rating, and then you can take that one into your next battle. Now, a great way to stay full on your crafting materials is to pick up the node Scrapper, and this is in the crafting tree under technical ability. This will automatically disassemble any junk items you have into crafting materials. So I know what some people are thinking, junk is a great way to build up cash. And honestly, the amount of cash you get for junk is so minimal that this is going to offset, right? This is all going to pay for itself in time spent disassembling and your saved cash from having to buy materials at a shop if you're short. Number 6, make sure to slot in weapon mods. Now, Cyberpunk does not do a great job reminding you that you have mods you can use for your gear. And these things are fairly powerful and give big increases to DPS on weapons, right? You have scopes, you have crit damage mods, damage reduction mods, silencers, all sorts of things to make your life easier in Night City. So do not forget to check your armor and check your weapons. And another good thing is don't just look at the armor rating between your gear pieces, right? You might have one that has 3 mod slots and you don't have anything slotted into those, but it's a lower armor rating than one that doesn't have any mod slots and has a higher armor rating. Make sure to check your mods and see if you can slot anything into those 3 places and make that piece even better. So number 7, last up, these are some of the skill perks that I recommend picking up. They made my life a little bit easier, and hopefully they will for you guys too. So number 1 is Pack Mule. Now this increases your carrying capacity, and you might not think you need it early on, right? Because you don't really have a ton of stuff in your inventory yet. But once you start getting an inventory of gear you're going to use, it's going to eat up that max capacity extremely quickly. So unless you want to bounce to your apartment all the time, just take this node. It's 1 point, and it's highly, highly valuable. Number 2 is Invincible. This is going to give a 30% increase to max health at 3 points. And again, this is a basic stat. It's going to make life easier for you in the long run, keep you from burning through those inhalers, having to craft more, buy more. Once again, only 3 points, not exactly breaking the bank here. Now, number 3, I recommend getting Epimorphous. Now, this allows you to regen your health to 70% outside of combat at 1 point. You can put additional points in there to get up to 100%, but this is incredibly useful, right? You're going between conflicts all the time. There's constant battle in Night City. This helps you avoid a situation where you go from one battle to the next and forget to top off and end up going in, having to burn an inhaler, or not realizing it and dying. Next, we have True Grit. Now, True Grit gives you a 30% increase to stamina. Now, some people might not find this immediately valuable, especially if you're not a big stamina user, right? If you're like a net runner, or if you're someone who just like plays like a stealthy gameplay, you might not need stamina. But for those who are on melee builds or like to run all over the city, this is a great node to pick up. And once again, it's fairly cheap. So for people who like to rush in and just go absolutely murder city on everything, Mongoose is a solid perk to take. You're getting a 25% boost to evasion while reloading. And if you're running something with a limited capacity, like a double-barreled shotgun, you're gonna be getting a ton of value out of this because the uptime is going to be insane. Now, next up, under the reflexes tree and under blades, you have Slow and Steady. This increases your armor by 30% while moving if you put in 2 points. This is another very easy node to pick up. It gives some great defensive bumps for your character. And honestly, once again, if you're running a melee build, close combat build like shotguns, you're always going to be moving. I highly doubt anyone besides like a sniper build or maybe a netrunner build will be standing still in the middle of combat. Now, next up, we have one underneath the Cool tree and under Cold Blood. Take the Cold Blood node. This is going to give an increase to movement speed on kill of up to 6%, and it's going to help you zip around the battlefield and close gaps more quickly if you're melee. Now, everything under this tree kind of plugs into Cold Blood, so if you really like the way that works, you can actually bump it up, get some health regen, get some damage stuff. There's a lot that plugs into that buff. So that's a pretty cool tree. I haven't really explored that one too much, but it is one that I definitely, on my next run, want to build a Cold Blood style character. So guys, these are just a few things that I learned during my playthrough that were super helpful for me, and hopefully they'll be helpful for you guys as well. So I did want to ask, what are some things that you all learned and that really kind of helped you guys out, or that you would share with other players to make their first run through Night City a much smoother one? As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you next time.